Poverty in relation to child neglect. This is an educational promotional video that goes into great detail about poverty and the relationship it has with child abuse and neglect. The pictures you will see throughout the video were taken by a photography student. The pictures were taken throughout the metro Atlanta area. Other pictures represent the issue of poverty throughout the world. These images were taken by Google and were labeled as reusable. So poverty is a prevalent problem that not only affects the United States, Atlanta, Georgia, but also around the world. This social problem has been around for years and has been one of the main issues that social workers had to tackle. This issue is something that social workers should care about as it has many outlining factors such as increase in mental health, stress, crime, homeless, and lack of education. Poverty can also relate to other social problems, such as the increase of child maltreatment. According to the United States Department of Health and Human Services, people are considered poor when they do not have the resources or ability to become self-sufficient. There are several children who are in the foster care system due to some type of neglect or abuse. According to the National Bureau of Economic Research, Child Protective Services and other agencies have worked with these vulnerable children, and many are, in fact, in the foster care system because of poverty. When we think of poverty, the first thing that comes to our minds is income, or perhaps a family's living situation. According to the United States Census, poverty is defined as money income threshold that varies by family size and composition. If a family falls below a certain threshold, they are considered to be labeled as poverty. The Child Welfare Gateway information defines child abuse and neglect as any physical, sexual, emotional, or a failure to act when there is an immediate harm. Both poverty and child abuse can be closely related. So there has been tons of research on how poverty can become a potential indicator of child abuse and neglect. Several families who are living in poverty are faced with severe economic issues, which causes caregivers to gain mental health problems, criminal problems, and increase their lack to protect vulnerable children. What this essentially means is that when families are faced with this particular social problem or living in poverty, they may also be dealing with other behavior issues of their children or unable to meet their basic needs. Researchers goes into great detail of how the stress of young single mothers who are living in poverty can create a higher risk factors related to child maltreatment. One of the major issues related to an increase of child maltreatment due to poverty is economic stress. When families are faced with economic stress, many who have small children in the home, this may cause maltreatment of the child as they are struggling with trying to maintain income to make ends meet. According to the United States Census, in 2015, there were 13.5% people below the poverty line. In Georgia, there was a total of 15 individuals below the poverty line. Researchers have went into further detail of how economic stress can lead to difficulty in parenting. One example that researchers came up with is poverty use in adolescent mothers. But the researchers focus on both emotional behaviors, physical abuse in relation to poverty. The researchers explain how the stress of economic hardships can lead to harsh parenting, and mothers are less likely to interact with their children. This can lead to causes of child maltreatment such as emotional abuse. Furthermore, economic stress can also lead to physical abuse, specifically when children are exhibiting difficult behaviors. Children who come from two-parent households may also be victims of child maltreatment due to the factors of poverty. According to the Child Trends Data Bank, there has been an increase of children living in two-parent households, with a total of 251% with a married couple, opposed to 101% who live with their mother only. For children who are living in two-parent households who are in poverty, this may cause tension between the mother and father, which children are then exposed. Researchers have examined how marital conflict due to economic hardship can lead to child maltreatment by children being exposed to verbal or physical violence by the mother or father. Now let's take a look at the inadequate housing or inadequate food, which is the basic needs when it comes to poverty. When caregivers are faced with the dynamics of living in poverty, it can lead to a higher risk of their inability to care for the basic needs of the child. One of the basic and most important needs of children is adequate food and shelter. Researchers have examined how food neglect and food insecurity among families living in poverty can also be related to child maltreatment. It is important for children to have their basic needs met. Researchers have also focused on how most families who are faced with low income and feeding their children also examine food insecurity or food neglect from a life course perspective, relating it with mothers who are depressed because of their economic hardships, and how babies are lacking their nutrients. When it comes to inadequate food, Child and Family Services are involved, and this is also known as a form of neglect. So just a little data. According to Georgia Division of Family and Children Services, in the Metro District areas such as Fulton County, a total of 247 children were removed due to allegations of neglect. These reports do not indicate whether these reports are from inadequate food. Children strive better when their basic needs are being met, and when caregivers are faced with economic issues, their child's needs tend to fail. So based on some previous research in relation to food neglect, it was found that families who struggle with the ability to feed their children were reported to Child Protective Services. Another basic need that relates to poverty and child maltreatment is inadequate housing, which is very popular in the Atlanta metro area. There has been a significant amount of child protective reports when it comes to the inadequate housing of families with children who are living in poverty. According to some previous research, inadequate housing is one of the major factors among children to be placed in foster care system. The researchers indicate how housing is one of the major factors among children to be placed in the foster care system. The researchers also indicated that when families are faced with inadequate housing, then the basic needs for children such as food, clothing, and shelter may not be met. When the basic needs of the children are not met, this can place children at high risk. Hello, I really hope you all enjoyed my video, just a short video about poverty in relation to child abuse and neglect. As you can see in the video, there were several images, many that were taken in the Atlanta metro area and many throughout the world, of just how poverty looks like. How is it affecting our children? How is it related to child abuse and neglect? I want to first start with some practice implications. So, how is poverty in relation to child abuse and neglect important for social workers? Let's start with the micro level. When it comes to the micro level of poverty in relation to child abuse and neglect, we as social workers can engage our families, specifically those who are involved with the child welfare system due to poverty. Also, as a foster care case manager, your job is to advocate for your families. Helping your families become self-sufficient is one of the Georgia DFAC's goals. When it comes to the METSO level, working with nonprofit organizations who target child abuse or who target poverty to just help our families in the community is very big. And as social workers, it's our job to advocate for more of that, to advocate for helping our families, to advocate for bringing those resources in low-income communities. As for the macro level, advocating for better social service systems to help our needy families, advocating for maybe higher income raise in TANF. And this is also to just help keep our children safe. These are just some of the practice implication when it comes to poverty in relationship to child abuse and neglect. I really enjoy working with families and children, specifically vulnerable families and children, and I have learned a lot with my experience, I have been with the Division of Family and Children Services for over 2 years now and have had a chance to advocate for my families and advocate for the children that's in the foster care system due to poverty or due to inadequate housing. This is something that I'm very passionate about, and I enjoy doing research on this. I enjoy getting out in the community, and I hope you all enjoy my small educational promotional video. Thank you so much and have a great day.